Nightwing Annual Number 1, written by Kyle Higgins, art by Jason Masters, with Daniel Sampier and Vicente Cifuentes on art. So, this is apparently kind of a tie-in to the Batgirl story that's going on, and it is in the fact of it's set in the same time of continuity, but doesn't really feel like it forwards it at all. So anyway, we open up in Gotham City in a apartment of someone named Ted Carson, and we have, as he'll be named soon enough, Firefly in this guy's apartment saying, hey, sorry, I wish you didn't come to this. I didn't want to have to beat you, but now you get to smell gasoline, so that's always a good smell. And he douses this guy in gasoline, throws a lighter on him, and the whole apartment, including this guy named Ted, goes up in flames. And as we see in Gotham, we have Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon moving Dick out of his apartment. He has decided to move to Chicago full-time and spend the rest of his time there. And him and Barbara are talking, saying like, yeah, it's been so crazy recently for both of us. Like, you've got all your stuff going on of killing your brother, and the GCPD wants you and giving up the name of Batgirl. And then you got my thing where I had to deal with Tony Zucco recently. So that was a whole thing. Yeah, it's just super weird for us. And as he's going through all of his stuff, he finds this picture from their first night on patrol together where Barbara's giving him a kiss. And she's like, oh, yeah, no, that was a great time. Why, you know what, Barbara, let's just talk about this. Why hasn't it ever worked out for us? The timing's always been wrong, but like it could be something good, Why do we not do this? And then as they're talking about it, the bat signal comes up and he's like, speaking of timing being awful. So she says he should go handle it. And he's like, nah, I want you around. She's like, I'm not Batgirl. And he's like, don't be Batgirl. I'll go pick up whatever the details are from GCPD and then you can help me solve whatever it is. And she's like, all right, fair enough. So he gets the details from Bullock, and apparently there is this movie star, producer, something like that, named Cindy Cook, super rich and whatnot, and she had her production company burned to the ground. Yesterday, her talent agency blew up. 3 of her executives were in there. They went to the hospital. And then, as we just saw, Ted was her ex-husband, and they were still on decent terms, but Ted's apartment was burned to the ground. And he says, okay, well, why do you need a Bat family member? This seems like something the GCPD should be able to handle. And it's like, well, she's not talking to the police. She wants to talk to a Bat member. So Nightwing and Barbara go and talk to her, and she's just wearing like a ski mask and basic gear or whatnot. And Cindy then says, like, yeah, okay, there's this guy, his name was Garfield Linz. He was a pyrotechnics guy that we had to fire recently. He didn't take it well, and his nickname on set was Firefly because he likes fire so much. So yeah, I'm willing to bet this is him. And then she starts breaking down saying, oh, me and Ted, like, we were divorced, but like, I always hoped that things would work out. It was just life pulled us in different directions, but I guess now it never will. And Barbara and Dick look at each other like, seems like there's a theme going on this week. So we go to a film set where there's a director yelling cut, and someone comes up and tells him like, hey, there are some people in your trailer. You might want to go deal with that. And he's like, did you let producers on set? God damn it, I hate those producers. And as he makes his way in there, he finds Nightwing and Barbara, and they're just looking through his stuff, being like, hey, loved your movies. Hoping this one's also going to be a hit. Anyway, Garfield Linz, he is a friend of yours. He worked on a bunch of your productions. Where's he at? He's like, oh, this is invasion of privacy. I won't tell you nothing. And Barbara comes up and basically just starts threatening him. And he looks at Nightwing and he's just like, don't look at me. She's the good cop. So at that point he says, I don't know. He's been in some trouble, but I know where his workshop is. So they make their way to Garfield Linz's apartment, and at that point Dick basically just lays it down again. He's like, look, here's the thing. We were talking about it before. We were saying, like, why hasn't the timing been right? After hearing what Cindy had to say, why don't we just go for it? Look, you need a new start. You're being chased by the GCPD. I'm moving to Chicago. Come with me. Come with me to Chicago, and we can just start a new life there together. And she's like, are you serious? And before she can even say anything. Dick's like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. You still got a boyfriend. He's in a coma. Like, it's fine. Well, just forget I said anything. And then they find a list with the 3 places that have already been hit crossed out, and one more is a charity dinner at the end. And he's just like, well, guess we know where he's going to hit next. So they inform Bullock. Bullock brings all of the cops in Gotham to protect this charity dinner. And as they are looking over it all, they're just like, that's weird. It's been some time, but he hasn't attacked yet. And there's no reason he should have attacked this place either. Why has he said, crap, it's lured away all the cops to here. So Cindy's left unprotected. Son of a bitch. So they make their way back over to Cindy's hiding place. And Firefly is there already attacking her. And we see Nightwing and Barbara come in and just basically start knocking him down. And they do so in expert fashion. However, before they're able to fully take him down, he starts to fly away. And he throws back a flame grenade. I don't know what you want to call it. But it engulfs Cindy's entire apartment in flames. And Cindy is inside at that point. So Dick jumps in, goes to save her. Manages to get the body out, but it's already dead. However, it's very apparent by that point that this was not Cindy. This was someone who was dressed up to look like Cindy enough that when the body was charred, it would have been impossible to identify her and they would have assumed it was Cindy. And we also have another one of the bodyguards who was there chime up saying, yeah, that's Cindy's agent. She shouldn't have even been here. We have no idea what's going on here. So Nightwing and Barbara start to logic it out, and they say, okay, well, was there another entrance? And they say, yeah, it was through a panic room. That's how Firefly got in at the first place. And it's like, okay, so he's familiar with Cindy's layout. What does that mean? And they both come to the conclusion of like, oh, this isn't Garfield. So we cut down to the docks, and we see Firefly has the real Cindy tied up. And he's just like, hey, sorry. I just needed to tie you up so you wouldn't leave until I got back. I'll untie you now. And she's like, what? Who are you? And he takes off his mask, and it turns out it's Ted, the ex-husband. And the guy who was actually killed in the apartment was the real Garfield Lens. He died. Ted faked his death so that he and Cindy could run away together. And as we get the explanation is that the reason their relationship went on the rocks is because Cindy's meteoric rise to fame basically meant she couldn't have time to talk to Ted. She couldn't be with Ted as much as they would have hoped. So they just kind of drifted their separate ways. But now that he's faked Cindy's death, they can just run away together and they can live happily ever after in another country. And she's just like, you killed people, dude. That's not cool. I was scared for my life. No, that's not okay. Why did you think I'd be okay with this? And he's like, well, regardless, I'm going on that boat tonight, and you are going to be there one way or another. So he's about to attack Cindy. Nightwing and Barbara come in and stop him in the nick of time. And, it's just a whole fight scene going on. But they eventually get him underwater, punch him in the face, and knock him out. And just like, great, cool, we did it. We saved Cindy. So at that point, the police arrive. They take in Ted. And Cindy explains to Nightwing, like, yeah, no, it's... Nightwing asks what happened between you two. And it's as I explained before, of they drifted away. It was just a thing. But Cindy makes the point of, I didn't want to push it because if it was meant to be, the timing would be right. It shouldn't be something where, we make these excuses of the timing never being right. We would have found a way to work it out regardless. It wouldn't have been a thing we had to force. And Nightwing's like, oh, okay, I get where this is going. So at that point, Nightwing meets up with Barbara again on the rooftop, and she basically says, look, I can't give you an answer right now. I do need to think on it, but I'm open to it. So how about before you leave tomorrow, I'll swing by tomorrow morning and I can talk to you and we can figure out what we're doing. And he's just like, yeah, no, cool. Sounds great. So next morning comes, Barbara knocks on his door, and when she opens it, he's already left. All of his stuff has been packed. He's already on the road. She calls him up and says, hey, I'm at your place. Looks like you left. And he's like, yeah, something came up in Chicago. I had to go. I was going to call you when I thought you were awake. And she's just like, you don't got to make an excuse. We all know what's happening here. And he's just like, yeah, it's just, just know I always cared about you, Barbara, and I still do. And she's like, yeah, you too. Take care of yourself. And they hang up, and Dick looks over at the picture that he took from their first night patrolling, and we get a little flashback again to Robin basically flirting with Barbara, saying, so, what do you think? How's the night going? She's like, it's like a 7.5. And he's like, 7.5? That's great. That's means for celebration. Here, let me take a picture. And so they take a picture together, and she's like, oh, that's kind of cute. Almost worth an 8. And she kisses him on the cheek. That's it. That's the issue. I like it. I think it's solid. I like when this stuff goes into clearly two characters liking each other, but they establish why it just isn't working right now. And the real reason is that, it's hard to upset the status quo in long-running comics like this. But I think this was well done. I think they both got crazy things going on in their lives right now. One is living possibly hundreds of miles away, depending how far away Chicago is from Gotham, but it just makes sense that it couldn't work out right now, but they really, really wanted to, and I think this established it in a nice way. As for the whole Firefly mystery, I think it was well done. I didn't see it coming, just because if you look back at the way that the intro scene is written with the death of the quote-unquote Ted, when it was actually Garfield, they actually phrase it in a way where it's not just completely a misdirect. It's written in a way where you could have read it that way from the first time. So yeah, solid writing, solidly done all around. I'm going to say this is as Batgirl gave Robin on the date, it is a 7.5. It's a very well done issue. Just missing a little bit of extra stuff, but I couldn't tell you what it really needs to change. It's just not quite hitting that 8 level for me, but a 7.5 is nothing to slouch at. So yeah, solid issue.